Dean Phillips talks about this on the trail, and he talks about how Democrats demean MAGA voters. He talked about it with me today, saying that, it's just strange that they're talking about a group of voters like that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's narcissism. I think if you've lived in New York long enough, it's maybe a New York thing. Someone punches you, you punch them back hard.
So that's Charles Payne responding to Bret Baier last night. This panel that they had after the results came in was a very interesting panel. And I think it's something that we need to be paying more attention to as this race progresses, because we can see the absolute hatred, disgust that the people in the left-wing media have for Donald Trump. But I really think it's more than that, and they really dove into it.
That's why I grew up in Harlem.
Not if the country's at stake, right?
He won. He became president of the United States with that same personality. I don't think that, listen, I think it's worse with Biden calling MAGA. Biden's anger and vitriol and hatred for MAGA is far more worse than President Trump's individual battles with someone who crosses him.
So I want to pause it there because this has got another couple minutes to it. But the biggest thing, and when we spoke with Robert C. Cahaley earlier, who polls these issues, I asked him, what is the best thing going for Joe Biden? Like, what issue really is a winning issue for Joe Biden? And he said, abortion still matters. And he said it's a fear tactic when it's employed. But then he also said the idea that the conversations about Donald Trump being a dictator and about how dangerous he is. And what the left-leaning media levies against Donald Trump every day, all day, is this idea that Donald Trump is dangerous. They try to make him scary. And so they put all of this attack on Donald Trump. But what we hear with Charles Payne here is he flips the script on this. And I think it's really important to not miss this particular issue while the political conversation is going on, which is they say Donald Trump is scary, but then you listen to what Joe Biden says about MAGA voters. That's not about Donald Trump. That's Joe Biden coming after maybe you.
That is something that is really detrimental to this country, that the president of the United States despises half of the United States. President Biden, I said earlier today, about a week ago, I had a segment coming up, so I Googled Biden hates MAGA. Nothing but articles after articles after articles. He has expressed hatred for half of the country.
Who's writing those articles?
It doesn't matter. Look
it's
at
not.
him. Because the bottom line is he says it. He has vitriol for them. And so does MSNBC, and so does CNN, and so does the New York Times. They have vitriol for half of the nation. They don't look at them like fellow Americans, and it's unfortunate. They try to paint them as racist. All the things that they do to their fellow Americans who simply want a safe home, a safe community, for the children to have prosperity. They want the same thing, but they demean them all the time. That's why I think Phillips was so intriguing, because he went to a rally to find out for himself. And guess what? Golly, these are some pretty cool people. They're just like us.
Exactly what Jamie Dimon said this week as well.
Yeah. So that's Charles Payne talking about Dean Phillips, who, what did he get, 20% last night?
Almost.
In New Hampshire?
Just shy, yeah.
Against write-in candidate Joe Biden, and then also Marianne Williamson, who's still there. Dean Phillips is a congressman, and he's out there saying, listen, I know nobody knows who I am. More people know who I am now than they did 10 weeks ago, but we have to wake up to the situation that the Democrats are in with President Joe Biden as the leader of our party. Dean Phillips went on to say that he went to a Trump rally and he met some people, these very people that when you listen to Joe Biden, I assume he's trying to attack Donald Trump. He's not attacking Donald Trump. He hates you. They hate you. They put you in a box to make it easy to classify you as a bunch of really, really terrible things. And interestingly enough, Dean Phillips, the guy who is challenging Joe Biden, the incumbent, the current president of the United States, went to a rally and met some of you.
We have a crisis of participation. And I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. met probably 50 Trump people waiting in line, every single one of them thoughtful, hospitable, friendly, all of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump. A diverse crowd, people who had never been to a Trump event before. My party is completely delusional right now.
That's quite a statement. And that's not a statement from Sean Hannity on Fox News. That's not a statement from Tucker Carlson, not on Fox News, or some sort of far right-wing MAGA hat-wearing Trumper. That's the guy who's challenging Joe Biden in the Democrat Party for the nomination from the Democratic Party to be the president of the United States. He says his party is delusional, and he is correct in that. Jessica Tarloff responded. This was kind of a go back and forth between Charles Payne and Jessica Tarloff. And gosh, Charles Payne, when he gets into it, he gets into it. There's no pulled punches. You can feel the emotion that he certainly believes what he's saying. He's not speaking on behalf of anyone else. And I relate considerably to what he is talking about when you listen to the way Joe Biden and the people who are surrogates for Joe Biden speak about those who might support Donald Trump. Listen to Jessica Tarloff.
That's completely fine, and I know that the lines have shifted dramatically, but Joe Biden's responsible for a lot of that. You say that he's demeaned half the country. First of all, it's 74 million people that voted for Donald Trump, and he is explicit every time he talks about the MAGA movement to say that this is a subsection of the Republican Party, which is borne out in elections when you see people voting against Donald Trump. And this idea that
but what about the people voting for him? What about the people voting for him? He gives teleprompter speeches. I mean, you have to understand that it's...
but he is talking about insurrectionists. Yes, he is.
No.
Why is he talking about January 6th? And he says
MAGA like it's a swear word, you know, instead of a slogan.
If you get called regularly,
he's the
which
president
Democrats
of the United
do,
States.
thugs,
He's a commander-in-chief.
pedophiles.
Why can't he call the border a crisis while he's denigrating and castigating Americans? No, the voters are talking about that, Jessica.
But
excuse me,
point is about demeaning voters.
The president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, went to Philadelphia a year and a half ago with a Marine posted behind him.
I saw.
And gave a decidedly political speech where he insulted a large part of the country. And I've said many times on this network, and I'll say it again tonight, if people, a lot of people, spend a fraction of the time that they spend obsessing over Donald Trump, the person, learning one thing about the Trump voter, things may be very different. This is Joe Biden's version of Hillary's deplorable and irredeemable.
It's true. Once again, we see an instance where one thing is said. Joe Biden is repeatedly attacking MAGA supporters. He's not talking about MAGA supporters who are insurrectionists, which on its own is bologna sausage. He's lumping people together, anybody who would be MAGA. And, you know, we've done polls like this before. I'll probably do it again here soon because we haven't done one in a while. And I think that it'd be interesting to see the reaction of our audience here, both on the air on 97.1 FM Talk and on the Annie Frey YouTube channel. The idea of, like, are you MAGA? Well, you'd have to ask yourself, what is MAGA? I would say I am, but I got people who tell me every day that I'm a Trump hater. Are you MAGA?
I would have to say that I am, because I never seek out the label. But if you gave the attributes, I would say, well, I am those things, so I guess I am.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm MAGA. I mean, I want to see the best for this country. I want to put America first. I want to make America great again.
Simple.
Yeah.
So if you are the things that Brad is describing there, like you said, Ryan, if you were to list out the attributes of what it means to be MAGA, then we all in here would say, yeah, we absolutely are. But when Joe Biden says MAGA, he's not talking about those things. He's talking about people who are dangerous. He's saying MAGA and redefining what it is so that he can make it a bad word, so he can make it something people aren't wanting to associate themselves with, at least not publicly. Maybe in a safe room where it's just the three of us here talking and nobody else can hear what we're saying. We would say, well, yeah, I'm totally for Donald Trump. Joe Biden's a train wreck. And there are people who would, in safe company, admit, yeah, I'm voting for Donald Trump. But they want to make it something that you don't speak out loud, that you're not going to put out there for the world to hear, because then that makes the movement on the MAGA side look like it's catching some steam, especially if you're somebody who has watched what they've done to Donald Trump, the way they've attacked him, they've lied about him, they've used every resource at their hand, unethically so, to try to marginalize him. There are people who can see that and say, I'm not really fighting for Donald Trump, but I am for fighting against the man. And big leftist Democrat government is the capital M man right now. And I mean it in the most patriarchal sense possible. So if that means that you're going to come out this time and you're thinking, you know what, I know that they're screwing with him. And I do know that my personal finances were doing much better under Donald Trump. And I think that COVID kind of screwed him in the end. And I don't love everything he does. And you give all the qualifiers as to why you're not like wearing navy suits and red ties and white shirts to work every day with a red hat on to show everyone how Trumpian you are. Yeah, you're going to vote for Donald Trump. They can't have those people. That's the most dangerous thing to Joe Biden and the Democrat Party right now, is to have those people come out and say, yeah, I'm for Trump now. Because if you're for Trump, capital N-O-W, that means something has shifted and changed. In the last 4 years when Joe Biden was the president, that means Joe Biden did that to you. That means Joe Biden turned you MAGA. And it's happening. And the worst thing that can happen is you speak about it. So they continue to try to make it a 4-letter word so that you won't want to be associated with it. And it is a slur. Joe Biden is absolutely using it as a slur towards people. But we're supposed to believe that Donald Trump is the one who's hateful and divisive. Joe Biden is only hateful and divisive to the American voter. And the people who prop him up in the left-wing media make sure that you don't hear anything different from Donald Trump. They put all of the words into his mouth. They keep you from being able to consume what Donald Trump has to say in the context that he says it. Because if they allow you to consume it, you might start thinking for yourself. And for the Democrats and their machine, their operation, the worst thing that could happen is that you start thinking for yourself.
Yeah, it's always the same phrase, too. It's extremist MAGA Republicans. It just rolls right off of his tongue in speeches. I mean, almost every time he speaks.
And it's not just Joe Biden. It's Hakeem Jeffries.
It's everybody.
I can't pull a Jeffries clip without him going out in front when he gives one of those little press conferences. He's like, the extreme MAGA Republicans want to secure the border. They won't give us the money.
It's Jamie Raskin. It's Karine Jean-Pierre. It is everybody. It's Chuck Schumer. They're all saying it, and it's just to elicit a feeling in you to get you to go, ugh. I don't necessarily identify. I don't like that. I may not like Joe Biden, but I definitely don't like that. It makes me feel a certain way.
Yeah. And like they attach that extreme to the front of it, and it serves two purposes. It's plausible deniability. It's like, well, we aren't talking about all Republicans, just the extreme ones. But then off the other side of their mouth, they're like, they're all extreme.
Yeah, other than Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney.
That's it.
George Conway.
Yeah, give me a break.
And they'll talk about it in any scenario possible, too. I mean, you're talking during budget battles, which most Americans are like, yawn. They're like, well, I'm not getting my way. It's because of extreme MAGA Republicans like Mike Johnson. I mean, they throw it around like it's candy all the time, and it's very divisive.
What has MAGA done to hurt this country?
The left would say January 6th. That's what they would say.
I almost said something the FCC won't let me say. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
But that's what they want you to think of anytime they say MAGA, is those issues that they, by the way, only selected certain things that you could see from on January 6th with their commission. That's what they want you to see. That's very, very specific. Aside from that, MAGA, as far as policy goes, has done all positive things.
What a psyop.
Isn't it amazing?
It's unbelievable if you pause to sit there and think for a second, because no, I don't think January 6th was the worst day in our country's history, not even freaking close. I don't think it was the disaster insurrection that the leftists, I mean, it's amazing to think about how bad an actual violent insurrection would be should it materialize, and how damaging it would be to our democratic republic it's actually amazing to sit and think if that actually materialized the way the left wants you to think that it did, how damaging it would be to our democratic republic. And yet they hang their hat on it every time, every opportunity they get. They want you to think that it happened the way that they say that it happened. They want you to think that there are people in our country that simultaneously support Donald Trump that are only interested in overthrowing the government. It's the only way the context and the pounding of the table of Donald Trump wanting to be a dictator and never leave office, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, if your pea brain only thinks that that is what Donald Trump is actually trying to do, which is to run the country as the dictator for the end of all time, say that in the same sentence where you remind us that he's almost 80 and close to dead. And in the same breath where you accuse us of being ageist by questioning whether or not Joe Biden somehow or another has the mental acuity or not to continue to be the president.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Don't mess with the lemon?
We all have eyes and ears, and we all have brains, some more prominent than others, and we can see what's going on. And as Ryan said, they need to make you feel a certain way because your reaction on your emotion is all they have, which is why it ramps up the closer you get to Election Day, because you will react immediately on your emotion, and in time, you will react to your sensibilities of the emotion and how it plays out when you have time to process it and think about it. The hateful, divisive people in this country are those who are operating this Biden administration, who won't answer questions, who are destroying our sovereign nation by not protecting our southern border, who are working their way in between parents and their children, in between parents and their children's education, who are working their way in between you and your religion, who are working their way into things that you know to be scientifically, biologically, factually true. They're turning everything on its head, upside down, so that you can't tell what is up from down and left from right. And then they try to scare you because everything is so unearthed and unstable that they make you afraid so that you rely on them to fix the problem that they created. I feel as though we're getting a little malaise from the up and down of it. And people are remembering, I do know what 4 years of Trump was like. I was there. And I do know what 4 years of Biden is like. I am here. And one is incredibly preferable over the others, no matter what you're telling me that I should think, feel, and believe. People are going to be able to make that decision for themselves. I think it was Robert Cahaley, I think, who said we've never had this much of an A-B decision to make in an election. You know what you're getting with both.
I like when Jim Carafano highlights that too, because he does. He says it's never been clearer the different visions that exist for America.